Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome on behalf of the Scott Institute and Carnegie Mellon University. As you know, this is Energy Week. We've had a wonderful 4 days so far. Monday was Research Day, Tuesday was Policy Day, yesterday was Innovation Day, and today is Education Day. Without question, this is the highlight of Education Day and one of the highlights of the week. Because today, now, we're going to hear about the Barefoot College. Let me point out now, and we'll announce it again later to remind you, that after this presentation, after a little break, just across the hall, there will be a Barefoot College workshop led by the founder and the CEO, and we hope you'll stay for that, and that you'll find that very valuable. Bunker Roy, Sanjit Roy, better known as Bunker Roy, is the founder and director of Barefoot College. A graduate from Delhi University, he founded Barefoot College more than 40 years ago. As you'll hear, Barefoot College is much more than just a college or a network of colleges. I think it's fair to say it's a movement and a philosophy, one that embraces traditional knowledge and practical skill. In the many, many ways he's been recognized and honored. He was named one of the world's 100 most influential people by Time magazine. We'll hear first from his colleague, Meagan Fallone, who was CEO of Barefoot College. Meagan is a native of New Zealand, received degrees from Yale University and University of London. A champion of women in developing countries, she's been leading the expansion of Barefoot College into Latin America, Africa, and Southeast Asia. And she's bringing technology to Barefoot College, using it for good to expand the impact of Barefoot College. We at Carnegie Mellon are very honored and delighted to have you both here. And please join me in welcoming Meagan Fallone and her colleague, Bunker Roy. Meagan.
Hi, everybody. Namaste. It's us who are blessed and welcome to be here. And thank you, Deborah, for the warm welcome yesterday. Barefoot College is one of the only places I know where words like social justice are not words. They're a way of life, they're a way of thinking, and a way of behaving in everything we do and in every innovation we catalyze. We are a not-for-profit social enterprise in the true sense of an entrepreneurial effort, which means we look for holes and gaps, we look for ways to fill those holes and gaps, and we do that from a human-centric point of view. The organization was founded in 1972 by my boss, and it is based on the lifestyle and work style of Mahatma Gandhi, who believed that we must live simply so that others may simply live. Everything we do at the college is an exercise in understanding what we can live without versus what we must add. Traditional skills and knowledge are at the heart of what we value and respect most. And listening is something that is part of everything we do. We believe that the illiterate of the 21st century are not those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. We are in an extraordinary moment in history when our ability to listen, to unlearn, and to relearn how to move forward into the future is absolutely critical. We run programs in education. Everything we do is somehow around the issue of passing and transferring knowledge and how we do that. So we run creches that take care of small children so women and men in communities can work. We run a series of night schools for children who cannot go to school during the day, of which there are thousands and thousands and thousands in India. They are required to work at home and to help with livelihood at home, either herding, farming, or they're girls who, for a variety of reasons, are not allowed to go to school. We run residential courses for migrating families and the children of those families, and we run a day school that's based on the teaching and the lesson set out by Rabindranath Tagore. He was an educator who won the Nobel Prize, I believe, in 1914, and his vision and views on education are as important and relevant today as they were revolutionary then. If you've never heard of him, I suggest you Google him after this talk. Girls, of whom make up 80% of our education programs, are the focus of a very gender equalized and empowering environment. And they are part of a curriculum that is place-based, issue-based, and civil society developmental. So we are working on how to give kids the capacity to take better decisions for their communities, be more engaged in those decisions, to understand democratic process, and to ensure future stability in communities. We work on water. Water is one of the most critical issues for us in Rajasthan, which is located in a desert. So we work on rainwater harvesting, dams, reverse osmosis powered by solar, and a water testing program that spans thousands of communities and allows people with SMS to understand where drinkable water is available to them. We work on advocacy, but advocacy as a road to policy change. We are really looking not only at rights-based advocacy and getting those messages to the rural poor who are often cut off from access to information, but also looking at the economic empowerment that comes through being able to advocate for good policy shifts and change. And we advocate at international level for shifts in national electrification budgets that will include decentralized models that address the bottom of the pyramid and look at new paradigms for how to meet the needs of the people who currently do not have access to education. We also talk about being a professional, and Bunker will talk more about this. We redefine what that term means at the college, and we make sure that access to learning is not predicated by having a formal education. So everybody can learn anything. Anybody that's doing one job is allowed to switch to another, and no judgments are made on what background they have or what they've previously done. We have traditional handicraft artisans who run a more than $150,000 a year artisan business that makes a profit. We have barefoot doctors, barefoot dentists, barefoot teachers, architects, engineers, and traditional communicators. We run a solar program which has been in existence since early 2006 and really began to scale in 2008. The campus in Rajasthan is the only college fully solar electrified. Absolutely every ounce of power we use is generated by solar. That includes all of the computers, all of the fans, all of the various lights that are all over the campus. The campus is home to more than 260 people full-time, so that's no small measure. The campus is where we operate this international organization from, and it's the hub of all our programs in India. More than 1.3 billion people do not have access to energy, to a light. The number is far higher if you start looking at how many people don't have access to reliable energy. And I'm not talking about when Chicago has a blackout. I'm talking about people for whom this is the only source of light that they have. They deliver babies to it, they try to do homework to it, and they try to cook sanitary food to it. And for every one of you, there are 6 people using that for light. 11 countries, the 11 countries with the largest amount of households without electricity, enjoy the benefit of subsidized fossil fuels to the tune of $80 billion a year. Who pays that? We all do. So any idea that the effect and that the link between us and the developed world and the cost of poverty in the less developed world is not impacting us would be categorically wrong. It is costing us, each and every one of us, in tax dollars every single year. By supplying solar lighting and basic power to 1.2 billion people over a 10-year time frame at only $10 billion a year, so totally that's only $20 billion more than 1 year of fossil fuel subsidies, we would eradicate the problem of the people using that kerosene lamp. The Barefoot Women's Solar Engineering Initiative is extraordinary. We train women between the ages of 30 and 50 years old who are semi-literate and illiterate to be fully functioning solar engineers who fabricate, install, maintain, and repair the solar electrification in their communities in perpetuity into the future. The circuitry and circuit boards are color-coded. Everything they learn is learned by doing. They watch, they repeat, they watch, and they repeat, and by the time they're done in 6 months, they've constructed 50 households worth of solar equipment, which they do perfectly, and they're ready to take it home and install it in their communities. They don't have theory behind their practical knowledge. They have practical knowledge, and from that, they begin to learn theory. 40 women join us every 6 months in India for this training program, which is sponsored by the Ministry of External Affairs of India. It's a pretty revolutionary program, and it brings women from more than 10 countries every 6 months into the college to live and work together. They do not share a common language. They do not share a common food, common religion, but they live together, communicate together, and learn together, and become thoroughly empowered together through the course of those 6 months. Now, in 2008, we had piloted this program. We had done it all over India, and we had piloted it in 5 countries. And today, in 2015, by the end of 2015, we have this program in 74 countries. We've trained nearly 800 women as barefoot solar engineers. We're saving more than 5 million liters of kerosene a year, and we've brought light to more than 550,000 people. And we've done that one woman at a time. The SDG goals came out at the end of 2015, and the first one is to end poverty in all its forms everywhere. The Women's Barefoot Solar Engineering Initiative touches 14 of 17 of the Sustainable Development Goals.
In the poorest villages around the world, people are looking for solutions to poverty, pollution, access to clean water, and gender inequality. But one solution has been right there before our eyes: a woman. Her voice, silenced for generations, often by her own community, is now being used to inspire and transform. Her lack of formal education isn't her limitation. She has the gift of traditional knowledge and conventional wisdom, and the courage to help us create a sustainable world from the ground up. Releasing her potential starts with a journey, one that begins in Rajasthan, India at Barefoot College, where she meets a world full of new challenges and possibilities. We see her and women like her learning new technology the practical way, giving them the skills they need to become barefoot solar engineers, pioneering change. Upon returning home, she brings light that illuminates homes and powers night schools. She develops clean drinking water systems and teaches others to do the same, paving the way for a better quality of life for all. The proof. Today, over 1,200 villages are solar electrified in 64 countries, bringing new life to over 500,000 people, one woman at a time, one village at a time, one country at a time. The search is over. She is the solution. She is a barefoot woman, and she is our future. Being the change we would like to see in the world starts by empowering her. Share her story. Share this video and join the movement.
We measure and monitor impact with an extraordinary cloud-based program that's deployed on a mobile phone and was developed by 6 graduate students from Arkansas University, the Clinton School of Public Service. who came to us, each and every one of them, as volunteers, and were given the task to further develop this monitoring and evaluation program, which is now a decentralized program. We look at everything from statistical environmental data to quality of life information and shift in communities, civil society strengthening, and also, of course, economic output and overall reduction in kerosene and candles, batteries, other sorts of non-sustainable things. We issue analytics to all of our donors and try to work in as transparent a way as possible using the data to show the real impact of this program. But the impacts are pretty evident. Education for children in the communities goes dramatically up. Health and upper respiratory infections, lots of those kinds of health-related diseases, things that come from not cooking in good sanitary ways, immediately are reduced. The economic activities of women and men in communities dramatically increases because when you have light in the evening, your children go to sleep, you're able to meet, you're able to move around, you're able to work in the evenings, where before, when it got dark, you have to go to sleep. The security issues that we know have helped in communities are extraordinary. So having a light is the biggest deterrent to any kind of violent crime in a community. And then lastly, we've looked very much at the impact and ability of the power that having a self-sustainable, community-managed program has in driving an entire value shift and behavioral shift for a community that has felt disempowered, cut out, marginalized, cut off from the very progress that they see all around them and know is out there. Suddenly, they have their own resource, their own access, and they feel empowered. And what that does is catalyze them into wanting the next thing and the next thing. So light, we understand, basic light, is an enabler, and it is a confidence builder for communities. So people say to us, well, you know, you do that nice little thing where you train the women, but it doesn't really get to be that big, but actually now it's big. And it's getting bigger. So in 2014, the government of India gave us a grant to open 5 new barefoot training centers across sub-Saharan Africa, looking at ways that we can begin to increase exponentially the number of women who have access to training. In August, we opened the first of these centers in Zanzibar, in East Africa, where we have now graduated our first class of women solar engineers from East Africa. And the extraordinary thing here is that the teachers, the master trainers, are the women solar engineers who were trained in India. Every woman is trained to train on. And we encourage her to high five, not because it's cool to high five, but because we're trying to get her to understand she's got to teach on to 5 people everything she learns. So again, the transformation between being a learner to being a teacher is fundamental to this. This woman in the upper left-hand corner there, right-hand corner for you, is Fatma. She's now the manager of this training center. She keeps Excel sheets, she establishes budgets, she manages the inventory. She was a solar engineer trainee from 4 classes ago, and that is her telling the president of Zanzibar exactly how her systems work. One of the frustrations that we hear and are listening to more and more and more is this terrible situation between the connected, literate world and the illiterate, as yet unconnected world. Access to energy affects our ability to be connected. This is something we take for granted hugely. We have the opportunity to share what we know on the internet, learn what we don't know, and be able to access information and even markets for products through the internet. The developing world knows that's out there, and they're getting angrier and angrier that they don't have access to it in places where basic electricity is still prohibited. This nexus of power, connectivity, and content, both created by and specifically for the developing world, is becoming more and more important. And we're really looking at how those things impact health, education, and commerce for people in the developing world, or more importantly, how they are retarding their ability to grow in those areas. Part of our model establishes a rural electronic workshop in every community. Has 300 watts of solar panel on it. It has an inverter inside. And so we started looking at how we could leverage that more around this issue of content, connectivity, and so the R&D team in Telonia, which is made up of 4 men who have not passed the 10th grade in school, have developed solar charging stations for tablets in a remarkable collaboration we have with Apple right now. And those tablets have been loaded with learning support applications with a company called 1 Billion, another social enterprise based in the UK. And what's extraordinary about the 1 Billion software is that it is designed to support reading, writing, and mathematics, but in native language. So kids are able to learn and achieve in their own native language, which reinforces their confidence, their culture, and continues to keep things moving along. They have built a portable solar projector, which has a 5-hour projection life and can be strapped onto the back of a motorbike. And with an integrated Apple TV and a small projector unit inside, one iPad mini can bring the world to a classroom in the middle of a community in Rajasthan where they don't even have a light. The women are remarkable because once you teach a woman one thing, it's just not enough. And she starts asking for the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. This is what's great about women. And so they came to us and they said, it's not enough. We want to learn a lot more things. We want to learn about better ways to cook, cleaner ways to cook, not using wood, not inhaling bad smoke from kerosene and other bad fuels. We want to know how to earn more money. We want to learn livelihood skills. We want to understand how to cost something and how to sell it and where we can sell it. So we developed a co-curriculum for them called Enrich, which focuses on empowerment, enterprise, and education. Now remember, these are illiterate women. So everything that we're developing is being developed in ways that can be communicated, shared, and viral, but for women who can't read and write. So the Enrich curriculum covers all of these different activities through a series of workshops. Interestingly, the one I will point out to you most, that they love the most, is one on aspiration mapping. Anybody that imagines that people in very poor communities do not have aspirations, or in fact that those aspirations are not to become the president, are not to become a billionaire. They are usually simply to be able to meet the basic needs of their family. And so we use those workshops to understand how we can better innovate programs that support getting them to where they want to be. So Enrich is co-created. It's co-created with a series of other NGOs. We're really big on partnership. We work on multilateral partnerships, other social enterprise partnerships, people who write us with a great idea. We answer those emails. We look for partnership in everything we do because I believe you should reach out to the people who are doing great work and instead of trying to reinvent that yourself. So we have some wonderful people working with us. Green Char is a Kenyan organization that has developed green charcoal alternatives using waste from shrubs and thorns in places that are overgrown. Tostan is an organization in West Africa that works on female genital mutilation and some other deep social issues and has brought a wonderful perspective about community empowerment and about giving women information on their rights. Bees for Development, which is an international organization, has given us a fabulous curriculum on beekeeping, which we're now doing in several countries and will continue to expand. So partnership and networking are the name of that. Enrich is digital. Everything we're developing is able to be digitally passed on, disseminated to other people, and we're looking at online, open source, transfer of information, but accessed for and able to be accessed by people who can't read and write. Try to use the internet to search something if you can't read or write. Try to use an Apple iPad if you can't read or write. We are doing a lot of feedback for Apple on how to develop tools for the developing world that do not require written language. And most importantly, the idea is that every woman who passes through Enrich and the series of workshops that we offer them teaches those things on to a whole nother set of women. The most extraordinary innovation at Barefoot College that I've seen, or that differentiates it as the only college built by and for the rural poor, is this, is that a man who has less than 10 years of formal education has been able to design a solar program that has affected indirectly millions of people, directly more than 500,000 people, and has started a movement that has changed the way the United Nations looks at grassroots development, that starts to think about the inclusion of decentralized models that listen to the needs and aspirations of the rural poor, and that start to address the problem from a bottom-up approach and not a top-down approach. Now that has been made possible because we have a founder who has remarkably created in 43 years a space in which absolutely everything is possible. So I introduce you now, Bunker Roy. Just here. Okay. There you go. Just now. Yeah. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the next 15 minutes, let me turn your world upside down and make you think a bit differently. Start with a story, my own story. Went to a very elitist, snobbish, expensive school and college in India. How many Indians in this room? Can you raise your hands? Right, they'll probably know which school and college it is. And let me say that if you want to live and work in a village in India, don't go to Doon School and St. Stephen's College, because that's the last place they talk about village India, the other part of India that people don't know about. So by sheer curiosity, I went to this famine in Bihar in 1965. Much before your time, but there was a gentleman called Jayaprakash Narayan who appealed to the youth to come and do some work in the famine in Bihar. And it was the first time I was exposed to hunger, starvation, death, and it really shook me. I had no idea that there was a part of India that lived or survived like this. So I went back home, told my mother, I think I'd like to live and work in a village. Mother went into a coma. Because you know what Indian families are like. They got your life laid out for you. Who you should marry, what works you should do. If your father wasn't good enough, then you have to be like your father. So all these complications I had to face, like all of you will face in years to come. And I said, no, I'd like to live and work in a village. Mother said, there's no money, no job, no prospect, no security. What do you want to do? I said, I want to be an unskilled laborer digging wells for 5 years. She didn't speak to me for many years. Because the biggest problem was, what will I tell the family? That you went to Doon School and St. Stephen's and you are digging wells as an unskilled laborer for 5 years in the middle of Rajasthan. No one will believe it, but I persevered. And that was when I was exposed to the most extraordinary knowledge and skills that very poor people have. You don't read about it in universities or colleges, but this is the living, traditional knowledge and wisdom that very poor people have, not only in India now, all over the world. And how do we bring that knowledge, skill, and wisdom into mainstream? That is why we started the Barefoot College. It's 500 miles southwest of Delhi. It's in the middle of a very small village, Tilonia. Sometimes it does not rain for 5 years. It's a typical village. 14 different castes, 14 different problems. But it's a typical village where we thought we would start a college only for the poor, managed by the poor, for the poor. And we redefined professionalism. Who's a professional today? A professional is someone who has a combination of competence, confidence, and belief. To us, a water diviner is a professional. Traditional midwife is a professional because these are professionals who are respected, highly respected and accepted in traditional societies. Just because they haven't been to school and college doesn't mean that they are not respected, not accepted, and not applied on a large scale. So we wanted to bring this knowledge, wisdom, and skill into mainstream. And the Barefoot College was the best way to show it and demonstrate it. Where is it written? That just because you can't read and write, you cannot become an architect, you cannot become a health worker, you cannot become an engineer, you cannot become a designer, you can't become a communicator. It's all in our minds. Just because you can't read and write, why do you penalize people? Why do you reject people? So they said, show what you are talking about because we don't believe you. So the Barefoot College built. This is the first barefoot architect of Tilonia. He got the Aga Khan Award for Architecture because he built this college at $1.50 a square foot. Doesn't leak, hasn't collapsed, built the designs on the sand, and he built it with 13 barefoot architects. That's what it looks like today. We went to a forester, and I said, what can we grow here? They said, rock, no water, impossible, nothing will work. Never believe a forester. So I went to the old man in the village and said, what should I put in? And this is what the Barefoot College looks like today. It's the only college which is fully solar energized. Meagan has already told you about this remarkable man, Bhagwat Nandan. He's actually a priest in a nearby temple, but he knows more about solar engineering than anyone I know anywhere in the world, and I'm talking with some authority on this subject. He has solar electrified 100 kilowatts of panels on the roof, and everything works off the sun. Our internet is faster than Delhi. We want to show how you can apply solar in many different ways. We have a shop where we are selling over $250,000, $300,000 of handicrafts, and over 400 artisans are actually being serviced by these shops. We have a library, and every artisan is paid by check. And if the lady doesn't know how to read and write, the money is in the bank. But she says, how? I said, well, if you learn how to read and write, then you can take the money out of the bank. So the first time they actually learn there's an incentive how to learn how to read and write so that you can take the money out of the bank. But some women say, no, it's all right, let it be. The husband will anyway drink it away, so I like the money to stay on where the bank is. So we have many different types of women there. We have a solar-operated ATM, actually works. So if you have to come to the Barefoot College, you can draw money from this solar-operated ATM. We have a telephone exchange, optical fiber cable, video conferencing from this little telephone exchange. Now we have a dedicated line into this telephone exchange, so it's very fast. We have our own library with 400 films. Actually, we make our own films. We have our own water testing kit, mobile, barefoot chemists who actually test water 3 times a year. And this is our barefoot photographer and filmmaker. She was 2 years old when she came to Tilonia. Now she's married a Frenchman, got a kid, but she still makes films for us in Tilonia. And we are the only organization in Rajasthan, indeed the world, where we have 4,000 hours of traditional music of Rajasthan, which has died, which has almost disappeared, but we preserve it in the college because we think that this culture of Rajasthan should not disappear. We also keep traditional varieties of species of trees which are fast disappearing, but we think that these are important to be able to preserve and maintain and put into the ground so that these species don't die. We have our own Barefoot Dentist. Can you imagine these grandmothers, can't read and write, who are looking after the teeth of 7,000 children? Maybe in 6 months, they might be able to perform a root canal. How's that? Amazing women. We have our acupuncturist. Acupuncture is a very traditional medicine, alternative medicine. And we have our own community radio, 5,000, 50,000 people we reach every 24 hours with our radio, all not manned, womaned by the radios with these remarkable women who are editors, who create programs, who do the editing and do the broadcasting. We have barefoot pathologists, just taken off the road and said, why don't you become a pathologist? So they went to a pathologist, and in 6 months, they learned how to do blood samples, urine samples, find out malaria, cholera, at 10 rupees. When in Jaipur, it would cost you 1,000 rupees, bringing down the cost of doing these tests. So now, we have a staff position, about 3,000 people, and everyone is paid a minimum wage. No one can get in Barefoot College more than $150 a month. And for the next 40 years, even if you're with us, that is the money you'll get because we want you to come for the challenge. We don't want you to come for the money. And because we pay minimum wage, we don't sign a contract. So anyone who wants to come and work with us can work with us for 40 years without signing anything. And if they want to leave tomorrow, they can go. Nothing to bind them, not a piece of paper to bind them. We believe in technology transfer. So we are transferring technology. This is the technology that the engineers actually want us to believe is the answer to drinking water in Rajasthan. But between 1979 to 1991, we found that most of the hand pumps which were installed were out of order. So we thought we would train. Something wrong? Something happened? Sorry.
No problem.
Women to the rescue.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you. So we trained women mechanics to to repair and maintain the hand pumps. But the answer, long-term answer, was not hand pumps and going deeper and deeper. The long-term answer, sorry, what have I done? The long-term answer was rainwater harvesting. Thousands of years of rainwater harvesting in Rajasthan. Look how beautiful the structure is. Still surviving, still being used. And we thought we'd use that old technology and transfer it into schools. So today, we are collecting over 100 million liters of rainwater over 1,200 schools. And over 50,000 children have access to water, clean, safe drinking water. In these schools, we like to teach children between 6 and 14 democracy, citizenship, how you should elect the proper person, how you shouldn't cross the floor. So, when we started this night school in 1975, it was all with kerosene lamps. Today, most of the 200 schools have solar lamps, and they are actually situated on a rainwater harvesting tank, which is 50. You can see the hand pump at the back. That's where we run these classes. Every 3 years, children between 6 and 14 have an election, and they elect a prime minister. Prime minister is 12 years old. She looks after 20 goats in the morning, but she's prime minister in the evening. She has a cabinet: Minister for Education, Minister for Energy, Minister for Women, and they all supervise and manage and administer their own schools. If a teacher should misbehave and the Prime Minister writes a postcard to me, the teacher is fired. If the teacher misuses a solar lantern, does not use teaching aids, does not come to school in time, then the Prime Minister writes me a letter and the teacher is hauled up. It's a very serious cabinet business. Fortunately, all the Prime Ministers are girls, because they go to these evening schools, and all of them have been elected, and all very powerful people. 6 years ago, the Prime Minister went to get the World's Children's Prize from the Queen of Sweden, that's on our left. And the Queen of Sweden couldn't believe that this 12-year-old girl, never been outside a village in her life, could have so much confidence. And she turned to me and said, "Can you ask where this 12-year-old girl had so much confidence that she came to Sweden and she was as if she was not dazzled, but..." So I asked her, I said, "Where did you get your confidence from?" So this girl looked at the Queen straight in the eye and said, "Please tell her I'm the Prime Minister." Where 60% is illiterate, puppetry is the most powerful way of communicating. This gentleman is Joachim Chacha. He is 300 years old, knows the gossip of the whole village. He's my educator, he's my psychoanalyst, he's my doctor, he's my teacher, he's my donor, and he's my problem solver. If I should have a problem in the village, tension in the village, then I get Joachim Chacha, his name is Joachim Chacha, and he solves all my problems for me. All these puppets are made out of recycled World Bank reports. We have over 100,000 people watching these shows, and we talk about social messages. Why you shouldn't beat your wife, why you should have safe drinking water, why you should send your child to school. And this is an enormous educational, non-formal, informal educational process on both sides. So today, the technology that we are transferring abroad in India and abroad is a decentralized, demystified technology which is right down to the household level. We don't believe in the centralized solar systems. We believe in the decentralized system where every house has a panel and a battery, and we give them 7 hours of light, 5 years of light for 4 hours, and that is in their control and management. And the best way to do the repair and maintenance, as Meagan said, was a woman. What's the most powerful way of communicating today? Is it television? Is it telephone? Is it telegraph? It's tell a woman. You tell a woman, you can't go wrong. Kamla is our first barefoot woman solar engineer. She looks after 30 night schools, lanterns of 30 night schools, but she installs solar panels, solar power plants, and she is a teacher. So we taught for the first time in the history of India, we actually selected tribal women from Jharkhand, from Chhattisgarh, and from Ladakh, all the way, and brought them to the Barefoot College and taught them. And this woman in Ladakh was asked, what is the benefit of solar energy to you? And she she thought for a moment and said, "It's the first time I can see my husband's face in winter." Can you imagine? Minus 40 outside, living on a candle for 6 months of the year, unacceptable. So we are solar electrifying villages in the deserts, in the cold deserts of Ladakh, in the hot deserts of Rajasthan, and today there are 164 women solar engineers from 11 states who've been trained. So we thought we'd take this technology abroad. But before we went abroad, I want to tell you about our work of generating employment in the Barefoot College. There are ways and ways of empowering women, and one way is to give them work. So there are innovative ways of giving them work. We're giving them work in repairing hand pumps. We're giving them work in how to be solar engineers, all women. We're giving them work through the traditional charkhas. All the stuff that they make, we're marketing. We're giving them work through the making of these bell totas. And we're giving them solar lanterns at night to be able to do some work and sell the handicrafts in our outlets. We also give them traditional skills like how to fabricate sanitary napkins, how to make teaching and learning aids. All the teaching and learning aids in Thilonia night schools are made in Thilonia. We don't buy it from the market. We teach them how to make the mosquito nets, teach them how to make chalk and candles. We teach them how to make solar water heaters and solar cookers today. Teach them how to do welding. So today, we are reaching over 30,000 people in the year 2013-14. And in the last 40 years, we have actually reached 2 million people who are living below the poverty line. So we extended this technology to Africa. And in Africa, as Meagan said, this is the light that we have. So I'm going to show you a small film. Have I got it right? Sorry, need a woman.
This is a true story about all.
Sorry.
I don't know what's happening.
Are you going to?
There we go. It won't go full screen. I don't know how to do that. Yeah, no, it's just not full screen.
Heroes. This is about very simple, semi-literate rural women changing the face of the whole continent of Africa.
In our country, our village, we are in darkness, no light.
From DRC to Senegal, from Mauritania to Mozambique, from Liberia to Tanzania, from Sudan to South Africa, a quiet grassroots revolution is taking place.
My name is Fres Dudu Bulen, African South Sudan New Nation. I am solar engineer.
Je suis venue dans le pays du Burundi.
Guinea-Bissau. From Gambia.
I come from Zanzibar.
I'm coming from South Africa.
Senegal.
Côte d'Ivoire.
Country Thai, South Sudan. I come from Lesotho.
Using only a hands-on approach, demonstrating incredible sophisticated technology skills, these gutsy women are exposing the practical incompetence of exorbitant salaried armchair experts, putting high-powered, paper-qualified engineers to shame, making universities, donors, development planners, and paper-qualified experts seriously rethink if solar electrification of remote villages all over the world is the final goal, what the formal educational system is actually worth.
I made it.
I made it.
I'm a women solar engineer.
Yes, me, I feel proud because solar engineer is good to lady.
Since 2008, with financial support under the India Technical Economic Corporation, ITEC, of the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, these women have come to India to be trained in 6 months to be barefoot solar engineers. They represent the profile of everyday rural Africa, from poor agricultural, daily wage labourers, widows, housewives, battered, abandoned women, midwives, petty village entrepreneurs. They come uncertain, insecure, and lost in their new Indian surroundings. With good reason. They barely know how to read and write, meeting and having to live, work, and communicate with strangers. On top of that, they have no theoretical knowledge of mathematics or electronics. They have no idea of the detailed names of any electronic parts, no idea of how power is generated from the sun, no idea of how and why the solar systems work.
I call my teacher, problem, what problem? Transformer problem. Say, yeah, all, yeah, and with yeah, I understand.
Without using the written or spoken word, through sign language, simple colour codes, and using a combination of sight and sound, they have learnt how to fabricate sophisticated charge controllers, install fixed solar units, produce robust solar lanterns that last longer than the cheap, unreliable, unrepairable gadgets flooding the markets, and establish a rural electronic workshop to carry out all repair and maintenance at the village level. On their return, they are heroes and role models for the young girls. Their very presence in the villages on their return have fundamentally changed mindsets about the infinite capacity of rural women, about men-women relationships, and about the competence of villages to be self-sufficient. So long as they can practically solar electrify 100 houses within 2 weeks, fabricate solar lanterns, silence the hardened skeptics, and reduce the whole village into collective, respectful silence. That is all that matters. The Barefoot model does not believe in issuing certificates or diplomas after training. The certification is done by the community themselves.
The minute they hear about the kind of training we're doing, they can't not be supportive because they know that women stay in the village. If they train them, they will stay in the village, they will not migrate to the city. And that's what we're really focusing on, trying to build the quality of rural life.
The Barefoot approach believes the management, control, and ownership of the technology must lie in the hands of the poor communities. At every village meeting, where all the families are present, it is the first time they have ever calculated how much they spend on kerosene, wood, candles, torch batteries, and diesel. They are both surprised and horrified that they are spending between $5 to $10 per month for so many years. Each family still agrees to pay as much in writing for solar lighting. They collect contributions every month, and a solar committee manages the money. Unlike a business model, no one profits, but everyone benefits. 30% of the total monthly contribution collected goes to the salary of the women solar engineer cum entrepreneur. Every family living on less than $1 per day has a right to clean, bright, non-polluting light in their homes. We do not have the right to discriminate as a business model does, just because they cannot afford it. Instead of subsidizing the rich and calling it incentives, we need to subsidize the poor so long as they can pay for the repairs and maintenance. That ensured 100% coverage of the remote, non-electrified village. That ensures forests not being cut and kerosene not polluting the environment. For every village fully solar electrified, 10,000 litres of kerosene is saved.
يردو يركرا يبقى لا لا نو
As a partnership model, the model was first tested in 2008 in Africa. Over the last 7 years, till 2015, the Barefoot models have touched 34 of the least developed countries in Africa. Nearly 268 women have been trained as Barefoot women solar engineers. Rural electronic workshops have been established in 266 villages for instant repair and maintenance. By last count, all villages covering 15,000 houses have been solar electrified at a total cost of $6 million. Community contributions from every month total $75,000. We are looking at the first fully, technically and financially self-sufficient solar electrified villages in Africa. The role of the Barefoot women solar engineers, the demystified and decentralized Barefoot model, has been recognized the world over by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, President Clinton, the Prince of Wales, UN Women Michelle Bachelet, President of Zanzibar, the Government of India for its enormous global impact on empowering rural women and climate change. Jeffrey Sachs, in his Millennium Villages, spends $2.5 million in one village over 5 years. At the cost of barely 3 Millennium Villages, the Barefoot model has trained 268 women as solar engineers and fully solar electrified close to 266 villages in 7 years. The bottom-up community managed, community controlled and community owned Barefoot model is the only scalable, sustainable and cost-effective model for Africa. The President of Sierra Leone constructed the first Barefoot training centre in Cotaline, in Africa. It was inaugurated in March 2012. 12 Barefoot women solar engineers trained in India are now training 150 solar grandmothers from all over the country. The Government of India has approved the establishment of Barefoot training centres at the cost of $400,000 each in Liberia, Burkina Faso, Senegal, Tanzania and South Sudan.
The government of Zanzibar has given us this building to develop the first Barefoot Regional Vocational Training Center here in Zanzibar.
The Coca-Cola Foundation has approved $1 million for supporting the Barefoot training centers in Africa. The Clinton Global Initiative is a massive supporter, only too glad to give the Solar Mamas global visibility.
What is best for Africa is a model that is compassionate, that includes everybody. It is not a business model where some people profit and very few people are excluded. What is best for Africa is a model of compassion, of inclusion, of equality. So we believe that the partnership model is the best for Africa, where the business, the community, the government are all equal partners and they all have a share in developing Africa. That is the hope for Africa. Sorry. You have 40 women sitting around the table every 6 months, chatting to each other but not understanding a word. Because they all speak French, Jola, Spanish. But at the end of 6 months, they know more about solar installation, fabrication, repair, and maintenance than any graduate after 5 years of university. We tested this out in a country in South America where we said, here are 20 parts of a solar lantern, and here are 20 parts of a solar lantern, and you get the head of your solar energy department of your country to put this lantern together. And he said, no, I can't do it. I said, well, this grandmother can do it in half an hour. Who do you want in your country? She does the fabrication. And then, of course, we had His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. We trained 2 Tibetan women for the first time, and he was delighted. For the first time in the history, he actually, for the last 15 years, he'd never spent a night, but he spent a night in the Barefoot College. We made a puppet of him as well. And he said something very profound. He said, now that you've shown the Barefoot College working in practice, let's see if the experts and professors can make it work in theory. Because we are doing everything wrong. And yet it seems to work. And this alternative model, bottom-up Gandhian model, I think is the hope for the world today. So I'll end with a quotation of Mahatma Gandhi. He said, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. Thank you.
Does anybody have questions? Bunker and I would love to have a discussion, so we're really happy to.
What I was going to suggest is that people go across the hall.
Sure.
And continue it there.
Sure.
Because then we have food and drink, we have a
Right, so
conversation.
there's food and drink and opportunity for questions and answers, and then workshop right across the hall. Please join me though in thanking Mr. Warren and Mr. Warren.